Welcome back, fastest map fans. Today I've got not one lovely player, but two lovely players, 52lOvely and LovelyRabbit. 52lOvely, of course, using the name 52lOvely, and LovelyRabbit using the name Yangchigisonyun. 52lOvely is one of the few Korean fastest map 1 vs 1 focused players who's honestly pretty damn good. And if you wanted somewhat of an idea of where he's at, I'd say he is slightly behind JH, maybe even slightly behind Trisha, maybe on the same level as Trisha. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen this guy play too often, but what I've seen of him is pretty good. He's got consistent macro. His micro is not up to par compared to, for example, players like Scan or Libagu or Hamburger Sasu, but he still has considerably good micro for the average fastest map standards. His macro, though, and his build orders are all really good. See, you're on the yellow Terran on the top spot of the map, the top middle, Yangchigisonyun here, as we've already seen earlier, on the middle right of the map. And this should be interesting because LovelyRabbit is one of the better Zerg players on fastest map in both the Western and the Korean scenes combined. He plays a smart Zerg. Sometimes he tries to cut corners a little bit too much, and that often backfires against him, but most of the time he just pulls off really solid build orders. So yeah, he starts with, of course, the regular build order, makes a very late Overlord after the pool. A lot of players make their Overlord before the pool. LovelyRabbit makes it after the pool, so this pool is out a little bit earlier, and he can send out Zerglings to protect his choke a little bit earlier than if he had made that Overlord before the pool. That's a small optimization detail that Koreans love to apply, whereas most Western players go for a hatchery into an Overlord and a drone, and then they go for the pool. Koreans do it the other way around. And maybe that's also why they have a lot less troubles and issues holding mid builds when they are Zerg, because they have those Zerglings out a little bit earlier. They can send those Zerglings out a little bit earlier towards the choke, and usually their creep colonies lose less HP, or their Sunkens. But that is not the case this time around, because it looks like 52lOvely is going for the +1 command center. I honestly really like the +1 command center build order. That does expose him to some of the more aggressive options that a Zerg has, for example going all in on Zergling speed and just massing up a huge amount of Zerglings. But it happens so rarely, because it's kind of a coin flip move by the Zerg if he does that. Because of course the Terran can make an academy quite early. The Terran has more economy from the +1 command center they made very early on, so they can make more barracks, they can get their factory out earlier. And if your timing is a bit off, you're facing a bigger army that is more optimized, more diverse, and more specific in what it can fight and what it can not fight. But mostly in what it can fight, because it can fight more things, because the combination is usually so much more better, basically. So you went for double gas right off the bat. There comes the factory at about 3:35. He started it, or 3:38. Means we're going to be seeing it finish at about 5. Just making us Marines there in the front, and a depot there to wall off his front to keep LovelyRabbit out. Or I'm going to call him Yangchigi now. Yang. And Yang starts off with Sunkens there in the front. Wait, I should just call him Toki. That's what I usually call him. Toki. Toki is Korean for rabbit, it appears. He's going for lurkers right from the start. He's got his Overlord there at the front, so you can see all those Marines there. He sees that there's no turret there in the front, which is a little bit of useful information that he can keep himself, that he can use for his build order. Because as long as he isn't seeing a turret here in the front with this Overlord, it means that he can go ahead with the build order that he elected to do, which is of course the lurkers. But it looks like 52lOvely scanned this part. 52lOvely sees that there's no spire, no queen's nest, So it is safe to assume that Lovely knows that Rabbit is going for Lurker upgrade. Also has quite a big amount of Marines here, medics as well, where there's 4 Sunkers there in the front, which is definitely enough to keep this at bay. This cannot go in. More Marines, of course, are on the way, but he's only on 3 barracks, so I don't really see a frontal Marine stim attack happening yet. He might try to force it, and there's a very small chance it might work, but I doubt it, because Lurkers are almost on the way. Lurker aspect is seconds away from finishing. He's adding on more hatches because he wants to boost his economy, even added on another gas, which does result in a bit of gas overmine, but I don't think it's going to hurt him all that much, because he still has 21 drones mining the minerals. That should be more than enough, and he's not investing into... I was about to say he's not investing into ultra lurkers that heavily, but it does appear he is going to make about 6 lurkers in total. This one's going to be a lurker as well. Still 5 there in the front, now making turrets there in the front as well. That's a little bit of information that Toki does not have, but there is detection here in the front, which is going to keep those lurkers away from pushing deeper into this, which might hurt for Toki, because 52lOvely has a bigger economy, and he's going to ramp up really quickly, really fast, very soon. He's going for a dropship as well, followed up by a vessel. He doesn't have Radiate on the way yet, but he can soon afford it. Marine's still on the way there as well. He finished Marine range just now, but there is the lurker. Does he have scan? Oh, the lurker goes down before it can burrow up. He also has the scan already, so he isn't all that worried about lurkers. And honestly, it's starting to look like Toki went for something that is going to backfire. Once again, he puts down the lurker there in the front, but Lovely stims in his Marines and takes down the lurker, and now he's going to stim down those Sunkums there in the front, which means that Toki now only has... Toki has no more defenses left inside of his base, and he's flying over lurkers over the wall, but the lurkers are now running into the base of 52lOvely, but I don't think this is going to yield much fruit, although there is nothing there in the way. Nothing standing in the way of this, and it's only on a... It goes down to an SCV. That's really unfortunate for Toki, because he should have used this one instead, but there are more lurkers are running in, but there's fight here happening at the same time as well. Drones have gone down, but lurkers are unloading now right here in the base of 52lOvely. Will they take down those SCVs? He's unloaded some of the SCVs, so he's going down there really quick. He's lost almost most of his SCVs. Fight happening here in the base as well. Lurkers are burrowing up, and 52lOvely looks to be losing the fight here, because he isn't using his scan here to detect the lurkers. He doesn't have his vessel there on the scene either, because he needs his vessel in his own base. Very slowly taking down those lurkers that are inside of his base. Toki has more drones left than 52lOvely. The 52lOvely has a bigger bank. The 52lOvely has a harder time, because he has to take down those lurkers really quickly. And I think actually this is kind of a stalemate situation. Although of course Toki comes out way on top, because he's got a lot of hatcheries there that allow him to produce more drones really quickly, or even mass up on some lurkers. Whereas 52lOvely only has 2 command centers, and it's going to take him a lot longer to restore and restock his SCV count to get his economy back up and running. On the upside though, 52lOvely does have this nice little block here on the front. He's got a vessel as well. I think he has Radiate. I'm not sure if he has Radiate, but he's got 2 vessels there, so he can keep the push going, because he's got Marines, tanks, and vessels. Great combination to push into lurkers that don't have Swarm. But there's some highlighters there in the mix as well. But the number of tanks and Marines does seem to be in favor of 52lOvely. Slowly restocking. Wait, he got 2 more overlord. He got 2 more lurkers there on the scene, right on top of 52lOvely's workers. And workers, he only has 10 SCVs left. He managed to kill the remaining workers that were on the minerals. Now he's pushed back into a corner, forced to pull units back to his main. And he just picks it up again. I honestly missed that, but he flew it over here on the top side and managed to sneak in behind enemy lines and take down those workers. And it does look to be enough. Like, I do have to admit that 52lOvely has some pushing power here, but 52lOvely, I mean, that's some Dutch, ik bedoel, which is English. I mean, it's the same thing. Ik bedoel, means I mean. Anyway, Rabbit is stocking up on Hydras and on Lurkers. He's gonna try to go for a double flank here on the units here in the front of 52lOvely. 52lOvely has to be very cautious with moving forward, because the amount of Hydras is just going to keep stocking up. Lurkers there on the top side as well. Workers here. He managed to kill the lurkers that were inside of his base. Great job there, but it looks like Toki is going in from two fronts at the same time, but there's a lot of Marines there in the mix, but the Marines are going down to Lurkers very quickly, but the Hylists have died as well, but the Hylists are spawning still, and this is honestly really close, and I think that 52lOvely's got this in the bag, but another wave of Hylists is about to spawn, and it takes only a single mistake from 52lOvely to start losing his tanks to those Hylists that are about to spawn. But the Marines here in the front are a great deterrence for almost Hylists, and will do a great job of keeping those tanks alive. The Rabbit now going in from all sides. Great defensive matrix there on the tank, but he's focusing down the other tanks. Now Marines have gone down as well, and actually it looks like the Rabbit comes out on top. I was completely wrong here. No, wait. 52lOvely manages to fight this off. But Toki lost his Hylist then. He cannot make any more units. It looks like 52lOvely is going to win this in the end. And this game was way closer than I thought it would be. Way closer. Way close. If that den had not gone down, it was a really great focus there from 52lOvely, making sure the Hylist den goes down, so that Toki cannot produce any more Hylists to keep adding onto his army to take this down. But those Marines with the medics and the defensive matrix save the day for 52lOvely. He had a couple more units on the way, but his economy was honestly really, really bad thanks to those lurker drops that Toki kept throwing at him. So really well played from both players, but I have to say, really well played from 52lOvely, despite the situation he was put in. Some quick thinking to keep the pressure up on Toki instead of deciding to turtle up. He just decided to go for the hard counterattack, and I really like it. I really like it. So yeah, that was game number 1. There was another. We've got more replays waiting, so I'm gonna load up the second one, and it's a Terran versus Terran. We don't often see Terran versus Terran, and I'm not entirely sure what style these two players apply to the Terran versus Terran matchup, but I know that a lot of Koreans love to go for very fast and early vultures, very early mech. They just completely skip the barracks, much as they would do on regular maps where they skip the barracks tech, or some people actually do go for barracks because of course there is the threat of some cheesy early aggression, like on the regular maps you've got 8 rack or you got a mid rack, and then you can be aggressive with some Marines and some SCVs and maybe gets an edge over your Terran opponent. But that strategy is not that common on fastest map because the income is higher, it takes more time. It takes too much time, honestly, to pull off a center racks in a TvT or a bunker rush in a TvT, because your opponent will have most likely the same amount of units as you do. But there's a small difference here going on. 52lOvely starts off with the barracks. Toki starts off with the depot. Toki is not making a barracks at all. I think he's going to skip straight ahead into a command center to boost his economy up by a little bit. But it looks like 52lOvely is going for the very early gas. He is planning on going for those vultures, going into mech. He's going to make a couple of Marines to maybe scout the map and defend himself and maybe even be an aggressor, but the chance is slim. What he does have going for him though is that Toki's barracks is at least going to finish about 30 or 40 seconds after 52lOvely's barracks finishes up. His gas is also about 30 seconds later than Lovely's, so Rabbit might start to feel the repercussions of it, but he is going for double gas. That means he's going straight into factories right after this barrack, probably going to bunker up his front as well. If 52lOvely had scouted Rabbit earlier, like if he had gone to the side with that SCV, he's now going up with this Marine here. So he is going to scout Rabbit somewhat soonish, but Rabbit hasn't finished the barrack yet. Once the Marine arrives right about here, the barracks will have finished up. A little bit earlier even. But first, of course, a Marine has to be on the way. If he attacks the Marine with the SCV, he's prepared to sacrifice the SCV. Marine takes a lot of damage there. Actually, both have taken about the same amounts of damage. More SCVs are being pulled over to the front, and given that he's making that +1 command center, he can afford to pull more SCVs there to the front. As Marine there still alive, now focusing on the Marine. Marine goes down, that's a slight advantage, because now he slows down the factory by even more, while his own factory is very close to finishing. Of course, he lifts up this one, so we can get extended vision. Bunker coming up in the front, Marine being chased away by these SCVs, but their Marine here in the top has just gone down, so the base is safe, but the front is still being attacked. This Marine has less HP than that one, so this Marine of course wins out, and the bunker comes down. No more Marines have been produced for 52, so 52 is now forced to sit and wait for his tank tech, or maybe even for vulture tech, depends on what he wants to do. With vultures he can run in and go straight for the SCVs, but I don't think that Toki is planning on allowing that. I think Toki is going to land this barracks right here at the front and maybe make a depot here. So we can wall off his front. There is the depot. There might be coming a depot here, or it's going to be the barracks. Just a smart move to keep those vultures that might try to run in, to keep them out. It's making Marines inside of Toki's base now. That might catch Toki by surprise. Depending on whether this SCV is going down to scout this, or whether it's going to make a starport there. Starport it is. Marine there on the front, chasing the Marine around. First tank comes out. No run by in the works for Lovely. There's the second command center. Toki is now somewhat ahead of 52lOvely, although it did take him quite a bit of fighting. And as I mentioned earlier, this depot is only there. The only purpose is to keep stuff out. So 2 Marines have finished up here. He's going to try and hunt some of those SCVs on the top side once he finds them, and slow Toki down once again. But will it be enough to offset the very early +1 command center? Or will it not be enough? The tank here on the side. See that siege mode finished up. He's moving his tank a little bit closer, getting vision with that Marine here so we can start firing on the bunker and on everything that's here in the front. There's the tank. So that's the advantage of getting your mech out way earlier. The downside is, of course, that the Terran has more minerals, and the Terran can even start off with making some of those raids to fight back against the tanks. So he cancels another factory, and he's moving into building a bunker there in the front. Places this barrack there on top of the bunker so the bunker cannot be repaired. Smart move, although it was a little bit late. Now he's just using it for extended vision. Another starport, another factory on the way, armory on the way as well for Goliaths, but also for upgrades. And very slowly inching closer and deeper on the front and through the front of Toki's base. Toki very slowly being pushed back, but he's got that tank there, finished up, ready to pretty much zone this entire area and secure it. There's a small little bit of area here on the bottom side that Lovely can use. Lovely, though, gets 2 tanks sieged up, gets fire on the tank there, but it looks like Lovely ends up losing the situation because he loses 2 tanks as opposed to 1 tank lost for Rabbit. So the battle of the LovelyRabbit and the 52lOvely rages on very slowly and methodically. Raids there taking down the barracks, which means that now Lovely cannot make another factory. First he has to make another barracks. He only had that queued up. That one's already on the way. Or does he have a barrack still? Regardless, raids on the way. Goliaths on the way for Lovely to fight against specifically those raids. Engineering bay there to start making detection. I didn't see whether he finished his cloak upgrade. Not too sure. Karen boosters on the way. They call them Karen. Alright, I wanted to see it on the top here, but something is bugging out again with the interface, so I can't even see what the name is, but I think it's called Karen boosters. They're on the way. Great extension of Goliath firing range. Tank sieging up there in the front. Tank out is about the same. Got 7 against 6. Nothing. Doesn't really matter if you've got 7 or 6. It's pretty much the same story. Goliaths there, though, might make a small difference if Lovely decides to push in here through the front, because they might take focus away from the tanks. The Toki is going for a tank drop, but 52lOvely scans it. That's honestly absolute great timing. But instead of going for a tank drop, he lands tanks up on the hill here, loading up more tanks, land them up on the hill there. That's great advantage he's building there, but at the same time, Lovely sees this as his one window to start going for the frontal attack here, because now there's nothing there blocking his tanks from getting access into the base of the Toki. The Toki now forced to unload his tanks back on the low ground there. He lost 2 tanks there in the front. He still has those raids though, but the raids don't have cloak, or do they? Nope, the cloak is still on the way. Starts losing raids there because he isn't paying attention all that well, but now it looks like Lovely has taken control over this section of the base here, can now fire on the machine shops as well, and perhaps even kill tanks that are spawning right in this little box here. But now the cloak has finished up, so now we can go for the tanks. Glides are being pulled back. There's no scan energy. Wait, there's scan energy now for 52lOvely, so the scan comes down. Raids are forced to pull back. And 52lOvely solidifies his control over this portion up until the scan duration ends, and Toki can go right back in. Still making more raids, throwing out a lot more Star Wars because he's planning on completely switching into raids, knowing that his tanks right now, as they are, should be sufficient to keep this tank line here secure, mostly because he's got those tanks here up on the hill, which makes it a little bit harder to go in through the front here, because at least some tanks that go into the front, this portion here will take damage. But as we can see, 52lOvely is completely avoiding that little pocket there. Now he goes in through the front, sieging up there in front of those tanks. Tanks taking brute force off the damage, but they're firing back on each other. He's going to win this one. Looks like 52lOvely lost the fight there, being very greedy, but eventually it turns out the raids are gonna make the difference in this fight. So Toki takes home the win for this one singular fight here. Regains control over his base, but of course those Goliaths on the low ground are amazing against those raids there, and the raids are forced to pull back, which means that now Lovely can start making turrets here in the front to secure at least his tanks against those raids. Another command center coming down. He started his own starports as well. 59 workers for Toki. He's a little bit ahead of 52lOvely, but it's honestly not that significant of a difference, because it mostly comes down to the gas income, as we can well, I want to say gas income, but Toki's got a lot of gas, but mostly because he has completely discontinued making tanks and ground forces, whereas Lovely is still producing Goliaths and tanks. Also trying to secure the side of his base here by placing tanks to offset the tanks up on the hill, meaning that tanks cannot progress further down onto the low ground because tanks are already sieged up. He sees a little pocket here on the side he can siege his tanks up on. Gets vision over the hill, tank there sieges up, the tank is going to go down, but the raids are coming in to take down the tanks there on the low ground. Nothing there to keep those raids away except for those turrets, but he's going to take down his tank. No, he pulls back before he starts losing too many of his raids. And the tank gets repaired. It means this little pocket here is now secured by the tank. This pocket here is also secured, well, more this pocket here is secured by those tanks, but these tanks have secured this pocket here. I like to think of Terran versus Terran, at least when it's played in this manner, of securing pockets of space. Or, yeah, pockets of space on the map that you get control over, and once you see an opening in a pocket of space controlled by the enemy, you can go in and push it. You can go in and push in on it. So tanks are up on the high ground. High ground, of course, has advantage, although not tanks against tanks. It kind of offset, but nonetheless, these tanks got the first shot, meaning that these tanks kill the tanks that are on the low ground before 52lOvely can fire back. And it looks like Toki is slowly progressing forward by landing more tanks up on the hills. And having hill control in TvT is huge, because it's easier to defend against the vision extension that a Terran can apply by hovering buildings to get vision on top of hills, but also to extend tank range. You can offset that with those mass raids. More mass raids are on the way. He's got upgrades on the way as well. So already has some upgrades finished up. Let me see which ones he's got. I lied. There's the one. There's a tank upgrade. He's got air and tank upgrades on the way. He's got 4 armories. So every single upgrade on the way. 52lOvely is on 3 armories. 4th one is there on the way. He's also making mass raids there to kind of offset and counter, well, maybe stalemate the situation is a better word. He wants to stalemate the situation and then work from the stalemate. The stalemate will at some point progress into either a leverage for one of the 2 players, depending on who makes the smarter move or who makes the bigger mistake that can be capitalized on. Yeah, it's mostly just going to be a very slow game from now onwards, because both players have their pockets of space under control. Or territorial control, you might call it. Nothing here on the side though for Toki, so that is a wide open gap that if 52lOvely does decide to go for dropships or does decide to go in from the side, he can just fly right in and start killing a lot of stuff that belongs to Toki. But Toki is the first aggressor. Toki aggresses you on the side, clears out some of those tanks. Which means tanks have now landed up on the higher ground here in this pocket as well, taking out some turrets. But 52lOvely is simply going on the counter-attack. But considering that there's a turret there behind the hill, cloak upgrade does not do anything. Although he didn't cloak. I'm not sure why. He could have cloaked at least. Some Valkyries are in the mix. They're amazing at taking down large groups of raids that are pretty much stacked on top of each other. And here we're starting to see that 52lOvely is quite a tad behind on Toki. All because of that +1 command center start. But also because Toki went for a 4th command center really early on. Whereas 52lOvely is only on 2. And he's only just now reaching the 70 SCV mark. Whereas Toki had already finished his SCV production quite a while ago. And also starts plugging up the hole on the right side of his base that I mentioned earlier. Whereas 52lOvely is planning on plugging up the giant hole here on the top side to start force a contain on Toki. He's expoing his starports here on the bottom side because honestly he doesn't have enough space inside of his base. Because he mostly just wants to use his entire area to secure his own base and force the contain on Toki and keep Toki from progressing deeper onto the map and deeper into his base. Same story here, and soon same story here on the top side. Although turrets have not yet been started there on the top side. Dropships being loaded up for Toki. He's making a lot of dropships, 9 of them in total. Pretty much just focused on loading tanks up over on the hill and maybe dropping them right on top of the tanks here under the support of raids. That's what I'm gonna be seeing him doing, maybe. Maybe he's gonna land up on the hill here or on top of those tanks there. He's got quite some options, but it looks like he's not going for any of those. Instead, he's going to take down those turrets here on the low ground because he wants to prevent that from happening. Flies in, he sees the turrets, just keeps on flying deeper and deeper with those dropships, but raids and Valkyries are on the way, ready to intercept them. Scan comes down from 52lOvely. 52lOvely finds the dropship. Dropships are pretty much being forsaken now, and he's unloading those tanks on the low ground, but the raids can still take down those tanks. Now the counter armada of Valkyries is chasing Valkyries and those raids, but the raids are turning around, going in on those Valkyries, and the Valkyries have not yet used their scan. Both players are scanning all around the map. The fight is happening here of Valkyries against Valkyries. And it looks like he did scan on those raids, so the raids have gone down. Valkyries here are returning back to base. The number of raids for, Valkyries for Toki was simply greater. More raids now on the way. Tanks now moving down. He didn't kill the tanks, they have been kept alive. Still made here. More drops have been made. Now loading up some more tanks, trying to go for a 2-pronged attack, or is he going for attack from a single side? These tanks there on the bottom side of the map are moving somewhere. Both players are scanning a lot, but I'm not quite sure what they're scanning. Well, the scans have already expired. Too bad. Too bad. Anyway, he's going to take down this Starport Expo here on the bottom side. He's keeping his air here as well, so that anything that spawns gets taken down immediately. These Starports here are being threatened as well, because 52lOvely pretty much has all of his ground units, his tanks, capable of fighting back against tanks, all up there on the top side of his base. Whereas his air was momentarily mislocated on the map, and he already lost a huge chunk of his raids a little bit earlier, meaning that Toki now has the upper hand in unit count and in air superiority, which gives Toki the chance to start unloading tanks up here on the high ground. But the tanks coming in here from the side, aiming to take down the tanks here on the low ground next to the hill. The raids there might be the game changer, but the scan is still protecting those raids. But eventually, of course, he does win the fight, it seemed, because he's got his tanks loaded up on the hill there, and all the depots, all the production here from 52lOvely is now being threatened directly. Valkyries are on the way, he's got some raids on the way, I like to believe, but it's battlecruisers, but those battlecruisers might never finish. Tank loading there up on the low ground, taking care of those SCVs. Killed a bunch of them. His SCV count dropped from 75 down to 36. It means that he's pretty much killed every single SCV that was on the minerals, and only the gas SCVs are left, because there's 10 gas, 3 SCVs per gas. So he's got 30 SCVs left on the gas, and 5 running about amok, building stuff here on the top side. 4 there, 2 here. But his battlecruisers have finished, which means he's now pushing back. But he's got no minerals left. He does have a lot of gas. So if he decides to pull all of his SCVs off of his gas, he might recover somewhat quickly, because then he has about 29 or 30, maybe even 35 SCVs mining minerals. But Toki is not planning on giving 52lOvely any time whatsoever, because the iron is hot and now is the time to strike. Those battlecruisers though are quite strong. The raids are pretty good against small amounts of battlecruisers, and look at this. Toki is just massing a huge amount of raids to offset and counter that small number of battlecruisers, 3 battlecruisers. And given that 52lOvely lacks the amount of minerals to really start pumping out a huge amount of units very quickly, this might take a while, and Toki honestly just has to enforce the push here on the front with his mass raids, because his mass raids can take down these tanks, and once those tanks are down, Toki can start pushing and forcing his tanks deeper in. There he goes, even going in with the Goliaths. There goes the first tank. The tanks are going down quite quick. Now that means that these tanks here in the back can start rolling into 52lOvely's base. Tanks here on the bottom side as well, taking down depots, which now means that Lovely is in fact supply stuck. The raids here did go down. Oh, they retreated. A lot of them did go down though. But 52lOvely's front has been broken open, and Toki is now setting up shop and controlling the pocket of the front of 52lOvely's base. Got some Goliaths there in the mix, but the battlecruisers are now planning on pushing back against the tanks. Scan comes down, raids are splitting up. Quite a huge number of battlecruisers there, and those raids stand absolutely no chance against those cruisers. But more raids are spawning, Goliaths are spawning in Toki's base as well, but will it be enough? Both players have about even upgrades. The air is on 2-2-2, whereas Toki is on 2-2 as well for air. Ground, both players are on... Wait, he's on 2-3 and 1-3, so armor upgrade is lagging behind a little bit for Lovely. Lovely is still somewhat fine. I don't want to claim, but his base is so small, his worker count has recovered, but his production capability is maybe... It's not even half of what Toki's production capability is. So the moment that Toki starts killing those battlecruisers or those tanks that are on the low ground, the game might just violently flip on its head and end rapidly. A huge amount of Goliaths. He's completely focusing on setting up a counter to those Goliaths with all those raids and all those Goliaths. He also knows that a mass raid can take down those battlecruisers bit by bit. There he goes in, 2 Valkyries there taken down first. Now he goes for the Goliaths. Scans coming down for 52lOvely, but the Goliaths, the raids are actually going down so extremely quick, as if made of paper. But the expo here of starports on the bottom side is going down. These are just very peaceful SCVs facing up against each other, and it looks like, actually looks like 52lOvely calls it GG, because he doesn't trust the situation anymore, even though he still had his battlecruisers. But even though he still had his battlecruisers, he only had about 4 starports. And those battlecruisers did take a lot of damage. And Toki has 10 starports there inside of his base. He's got a lot of factories there as well. He had his Goliaths moving in on those battlecruisers at the same time as well. So I want to just pause it there near the end so we can see exactly the amount of units both players had there near the end. This was what it was looking like. I'm going to pause it at about 2:30, 2:35, so we can get a good grasp on the exact situation, because the game suddenly abruptly ended. Here we go. Right. This is exactly on the end of the game. So yeah, it looks... Wait, did the scan duration end? He still had scan energy. He had 9 battlecruisers left. He had a couple of... He no longer had any of them on the way, because he lost his science facility, because it was located here. He lost it earlier. so he couldn't make new battlecruisers. He could make some new raids, but the fact that he couldn't make new battlecruisers is actually quite crucial here. Plus, he was going to lose those depots there on the bottom side. Was going to lose those 2 starports there as well. So his production capability was pretty much non-existent at this point. He did have the gas. He did have the minerals. So he did recover quite nicely. But his tank count is on 5. He only has 3 machine shops, so he can't really bounce back all that well once you start losing those tanks. Whereas Toki just has that ability to keep making more and replace everything he loses pretty much instantly. So it would only take another wave of raids, I assume, start taking down those battlecruisers, because there's a couple of battlecruisers there in the mix that are on very low HP, and these Valkyries might take too long to spawn. So yeah, somewhat of a nice methodical game. No super fancy micro or macro even. Just pure strategy and execution that all worked out in favor of Toki, despite the fact that Lovely was hammering on his front door. He even broke through the front door. He was basically a burglar already in his house, and they were staring each other down in the hallway. And Toki was like, "Oh no, you're not getting in here. You're not getting in here." And he busted out. Lovely busted him out of the house, kicked him out, beat him up. And this is the final result. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Terran versus Terran on fastest map, which is a little bit different from what you're used to, because the matchup is so rare. Almost nobody plays it, except honestly these 2 people. I've got some replays of Scan against Lovely as well, and Scan against JH where they play TvT. I've got one replay of Mong against Hamburger Sasu, that's a TvT. And that's about it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. It actually ends on 1-1. So they can't even call this a series. But I'm not going to dwindle on that. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.